Natalia's world went dark the moment her head hit the interlocking tiles. 1 second, she was walking out of the supermarket, holding 2 bags of groceries and her brown designer handbag. The sun was bright over Lekki. Her expensive black SUV shone under the light, and her heels clicked proudly on the ground. The next second, her heel slipped on a small pool of oil near the parking lot. Her foot flew sideways. Her heart jumped. The bags fell from her hands. Then, crack. Her head hit the hard tiles beside the SUV. The sound was small, but it felt like thunder in her skull. The world blurred. Her chest burned. Air refused to go in. Natalia's hand rose weakly from the ground, fingers shaking, reaching out to the air as if she was searching for someone. "Help me," she tried to say, but only a faint whisper came out. People stopped. Shoppers froze. Car doors stayed open. Phones came out. A small circle quickly formed around her. A woman in a fancy gown gasped, "Oh my God, is she dying?" A man in a neat shirt stepped back. "She hit her head. Don't touch her. We can get in trouble." "She looks rich," another man whispered, staring at the black SUV with tinted glass and shiny rims. "What if her family blames us?" Nobody moved closer. Natalia's eyes rolled as she tried to breathe. Her chest rose once, then struggled. Tears formed at the corners of her eyes, not from pain, but from fear. Her hand stayed up in the air, fingers shaking, begging for help. No one held it. Across the parking lot, Jerry watched everything from the shade of a small kiosk. He had been standing there all morning, leaning on a concrete pillar, hoping someone would buy him food or give him small change. His brown coat was torn and stained. His hair was rough and overgrown. His beard was thick and tangled. His shoes were almost finished. Some people avoided him as if he carried bad luck. To them, Jerry was just that homeless man who always sat by the mall. But today, he saw something that made his heart jump. He saw Natalia fall. He saw her hand rise. He saw her mouth open, but no sound come out. Jerry's eyes widened. He knew that look. He had seen it before. His mind flashed back to a different time, years ago, when he was not homeless, when he wore suits every day and worked as a bank manager. The day a man fainted in the bank and stopped breathing, the way they had rushed, the way a doctor had shown him on a training video. How to do CPR and mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. If the person is not breathing, the doctor had said, you do not wait, you act. Every second matters. Jerry blinked, tearing away from the memory. He looked at the crowd now, all standing, all watching, no one acting. Then he looked at Natalia. Her chest barely moved. Her hand started to fall. Jerry dropped his small nylon bag and ran. "Hey, where is that madman going?" "Stop him!" People stepped aside as Jerry pushed through. He did not care what they thought. He did not care about their faces, their eyes, or their phones. He only cared about the woman dying on the ground. Jerry fell on his knees beside Natalia. Up close, he could see how pale her brown skin had become. Her lips were turning slightly blue. Her eyes were half open, but her gaze was empty, tired, almost gone. "Madam, can you hear me?" Jerry asked, voice shaking. No answer. He pressed his fingers against her neck, feeling for a pulse. Weak. Very weak. Her chest did not rise again. Jerry's heart started beating fast, but his mind became strangely calm. It was the same calm he used to feel when he signed important documents at the bank. The calm that came when he knew there was no room for mistake. He tilted her head gently back, opened her mouth, and pinched her nose. Someone in the crowd shouted, "Hey, don't touch her." Another voice cried, "He is kissing her. Ha! This mad man is kissing the rich woman." Phones rose higher, recording. But Jerry did not stop. He took a deep breath, then pressed his mouth over hers. The smell of expensive perfume mixed with the dust on the tiles. He breathed air into her lungs, steady and careful. Then he pulled back, watching. Nothing. He started chest compressions, counting softly. 1, 2, 3, 4. He pushed down on her chest again and again, his hands firm but gentle. 5, 6, 7, 8. Someone tried to pull him back. "Leave her, you will kill her." Jerry shrugged the person off without looking up. He went back to her mouth, deep breath, mouth to mouth. Again, to the crowd it looked like kissing. To Jerry, it was a race against death. For a moment, the whole parking lot went quiet. No one laughed now. Even the cars seemed to hold their noise. Jerry pulled back, eyes fixed on Natalia's face, searching. Her chest rose a little, then fell, then stayed still again. No, no, stay with me, he whispered. Sweat rolled down his forehead. He went in for the second time. Another breath. Another seal of his mouth on hers. This time, as he pulled away, Natalia's body jerked as if something inside her fought back. Her chest rose sharply. She gasped, taking in a big, shaky breath. Air rushed into her lungs. Her eyes flew open. The first thing she saw was the sky above Lecky, bright and white. The second thing she saw was a man's face bent over hers. Dark, tired eyes, rough hair, beard tangled, a torn brown coat. For a second she thought she was dreaming. Then she realized he had saved her. Jerry quickly removed his mouth, blinking in shock as her eyes met his. He expected her to scream, to push him away, to shout, "Get off me!" Instead, Natalia's fingers gripped his wrist weakly. Her voice was small and cracked. "Thank you." Jerry swallowed, his heart still racing. "Madam, do not talk. Just breathe. Can you hear me well?" She nodded slightly, then winced at the sharp pain in her head. Sirens wailed far away, but they were slow. The crowd that had been watching from a distance started to move closer now, whispering. "That homeless man saved her. Is she not the woman that owns that tech company?" "I know her. That is Natalia Cole, the billionaire single mother." Natalia heard the words like echoes underwater. Her mind was still foggy, but one thought became clear. Her daughter, Mirabelle, 17, waiting at home. Natalia tried to sit up but groaned in pain. Jerry quickly supported her shoulders. "Please," she whispered, turning her eyes to him. "Can you drive?" Jerry blinked. "Drive?" She nodded toward her brown handbag lying near the SUV. "My car key, inside. Please, take me to the hospital. Do not wait for ambulance. I do not trust time today." Her voice shook. She could feel how thin the line was between life and death. Jerry had not driven a car in years, but his hands remembered the feel of a steering wheel. He remembered long drives to his old office. He remembered the life he had lost. He straightened up and nodded. "Yes, madam, I can drive." He grabbed her handbag with shaking hands, found the keys, then came back and carefully lifted Natalia into his arms. She felt light, fragile, like she could break if he dropped her. The crowd opened up, giving him way. For the first time in a long time, nobody called him mad. Nobody chased him away. They watched in silence as he carried her like treasure. He opened the back door of the SUV and gently laid her on the seat, placing her head carefully. He closed the door, ran around to the driver's side, jumped in, and started the engine. The car roared to life. Jerry gripped the steering wheel. The security guard at the gate stared in confusion as the black SUV sped out, driven not by a rich driver in suit, but by a homeless man in a torn brown coat. Minutes later, the SUV screeched to a stop in front of the emergency entrance of a private hospital. "Help!" Jerry shouted as he jumped out. She fell. She could not breathe. "Please help her." Nurses and doctors rushed out with a stretcher. They opened the back door, saw Natalia, and their eyes widened in shock when they recognized her face. "Is that—" "Yes, it is," a nurse whispered. "That is Madame Natalia." "Move," the doctor snapped. "No time. Get her inside now." They lifted her onto the stretcher and pushed her through the sliding doors. Jerry tried to follow, but a nurse stopped him at the entrance of the emergency ward. "Sir, you cannot come in here," she said softly. "We will do our best." Jerry's chest rose and fell fast. His hands were still shaking. Natalia's faint "thank you" echoed in his ears. Outside the ward, people were already gathering. Some hospital staff looked at Jerry with surprise, others with suspicion. A guard whispered, "Who is he? How did a homeless man bring a billionaire here in her own car?" Jerry leaned against the wall, suddenly feeling very small again. What if she dies? What if I was too late? Through the small glass window of the emergency room door, he saw doctors surround her. Machines beeped loudly. Someone raised their voice. "Her pulse is dropping. Get the oxygen mask." Is that blood from the head injury? Jerry's fingers clawed into his coat. A doctor's shout cut through the hallway. We are losing her. Prepare for... The door swung shut. Jerry could not hear the next words. He stared at the closed door, his heart pounding, his whole body numb. Had he really saved her? Or was she still slipping away on the other side of that door? Jerry didn't know how long he stood outside the emergency ward. 10 minutes, 20, an hour. Time felt strange. Every beep from the machines inside made his heart jump. Every voice he heard made him imagine the worst. He kept picturing Natalia's head hitting the tiles, her eyes rolling back, her chest refusing to rise, and the moment his mouth pressed over hers. He rubbed his hands together slowly, as if trying to wipe the memory away, but also holding on to it at the same time. People walked past him and stared. Some whispered, "That is the homeless man. He brought her here. I heard he kissed her." No, it was CPR, but still. The words stung a little, but Jerry didn't move. He just stared at the door, hoping for one thing: for her to live. Just then, the door opened sharply. A nurse in white rushed out, holding a blood pressure log. Her eyes landed on Jerry. She stopped. "You're the one who brought her?" she asked. Jerry nodded quickly. Is she alive?" The nurse looked at him with a strange expression, part curiosity, part confusion, part surprise. "She is fighting," the nurse said softly. "She is stable for now. We almost lost her." "But we didn't." Jerry sagged against the wall, relief washing over him so hard he almost fell to the floor. "Thank God," he breathed, but then the nurse added something that made him freeze. When she opened her eyes, the first person she asked for was, "You." Jerry blinked. "Me?" The nurse nodded. She said, "Where? Where is the man who saved me? She wants to see you when she wakes up fully." Jerry's throat tightened. No one had wanted him in a very long time. Not after he lost his job. Not after he came out of prison for a crime he didn't commit. Not after people called him cursed and dangerous. Not after he lost everything. "Please," the nurse added gently, "sit down. She should be conscious soon." Jerry sat on a black plastic chair outside her room. The hallway lights were bright and cold. Nurses walked past with files and medicine trays. Doctors murmured in corners. The smell of disinfectant filled the air. He stared at the floor, his coat spread around him like worn-out wings. He felt invisible again. In his mind, he saw the bank he used to manage, the shining floors, the big glass doors, his office with framed certificates, people who greeted him. "Good morning, Manager Jerry." All gone. But Natalia. She had looked at him like he was someone important. He didn't know why, but her whisper, "Thank you," kept replaying in his ears. He rubbed his face with both hands. "God, please let her live. She has a daughter waiting for her." Inside the private ward, Natalia slowly opened her eyes. Bright lights, soft beeping, a white ceiling. She blinked, confused. Her head felt heavy. Her chest felt tight. But she was breathing. She was alive. She turned her head slightly and saw a nurse adjusting a drip. Where am I?" she asked weakly. "You're in Crystal Care Hospital, ma'am," the nurse replied kindly. "You had a fall. You stopped breathing. But someone helped you." Natalia swallowed and touched her chest lightly. Flashes of the parking lot rushed back. The fall, her hand reaching up, the crowd stepping back, her chest refusing to rise. And then, a face, a man's face, rough beard, worried eyes, torn brown coat, mouth pressed to hers. Not a kiss, a rescue. Her voice shook. "Where is he?" "Who, ma'am?" "The man who saved me." The nurse smiled gently. "He's outside your door. He hasn't left since you came in." Emotion filled Natalia's chest. She closed her eyes for a moment. "Let me see him," she whispered. The nurse nodded and walked out. Jerry heard the door open. He looked up. The nurse gave him a soft smile. "She wants to see you." He froze. His heart kicked. For a second, he didn't know how to stand. Then he shoved his hands into the pockets of his torn coat and slowly rose to his feet. He followed the nurse into the room, and there she was. Natalia, the billionaire single mom that Lagos respected. The woman whose companies were on billboards. The woman whose business shows invited her as a speaker. The woman whose daughter was writing WAEC the following week. Lying on a hospital bed, looking small and fragile. But her eyes were clear, and when they landed on Jerry, they softened. She raised her hand slightly. "Come closer." Jerry stepped forward, unsure. "Madam, please rest. You don't need to." "Yes," she whispered. "I do." Her voice was gentle but carried strength. She studied his face with a long, quiet look. And Jerry suddenly became aware of how he must appear. His coat was torn, his hair was scattered, he smelled like dust, street sweat, and survival. He lowered his gaze. "I'm sorry for how I look." "Don't say that," she whispered. "You saved my life, and the world needs to know you are the reason I am breathing right now." Jerry's lips parted slightly. He didn't know how to respond. Natalia continued, her voice growing firmer. "When I fell, everyone stepped back. They were afraid. But you ran toward me, even when others were running away." Her eyes shone. "You didn't care how I looked, or who I was. You saw a human being who needed help." Jerry swallowed hard. I just didn't want to watch you die." "Mom?" A tear slid down her cheek. "And because of that, my daughter still has a mother." Jerry looked up sharply. Her daughter. He hadn't even thought about that. Natalia saw his expression and gave a tired smile. "Yes. Mirabelle, she's 17, she has no one else." Jerry nodded slowly. "I'm glad you're alive, really." Natalia reached for his hand. Her fingers were soft against his rough skin. "Jerry, if there were more people like you, the world would be a better place." He stared at her hand holding his. No one had touched him kindly in years. Then Natalia said something that made his breath stop. "You gave me a second chance. Now it is my turn to save you." Jerry frowned gently. "Save me? Madam, I'm fine." "No," she said softly. "You are not. Your eyes, they carry pain. Something happened to you. Something big." She squeezed his hand lightly. "Tell me." Jerry hesitated. His past was dark, shameful, heavy. He never told strangers. He barely told himself. But something in Natalia's voice made him want to open up, want to be seen, want to stop carrying everything alone. Just as Jerry opened his mouth to speak, someone knocked loudly. A tall man in a black suit stepped in. "Madam Natalia, we just received a call from your daughter. She is asking why you have not returned home." Natalia closed her eyes. "My phone must be in the SUV." "Yes, Mom. She's worried." Jerry stepped back slightly, embarrassed. I can wait outside." But Natalia held his hand tighter. "No, stay. When I leave this hospital, I want you beside me." Jerry blinked. "Beside you?" "Yes," she whispered. "You are coming home with me." The words hit him like thunder. Her home. A billionaire's mansion. Him. Before he could speak, Natalia gave him a tired but warm smile. "When I leave this place tomorrow, my daughter will meet the man who saved her mother's life." Jerry's heart pounded, and for the first time in many years, he felt a future opening. But neither of them knew. Something unexpected was waiting inside that mansion. Something that would change the story in a way no one was ready for. The next morning, sunlight spilled into the hospital room like a calm promise. Natalia lay awake, her head resting gently on the pillow. She felt stronger. Her breathing was steady, and the sharp pain in her chest was now a dull ache she could manage. The doctor had already checked her and confirmed she could go home if she remained stable. Jerry sat in the corner of the room, quietly watching her. He hadn't slept much, but somehow he didn't feel tired. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Natalia collapsing again, her chest refusing to rise, and the terrifying moment when her breathing stopped. Now she was alive, smiling softly at him. "Jerry," she said, "you look like you haven't slept." He rubbed his eyes. "I'm fine, Mom. I just didn't want anything to happen." Natalia looked at him with gentle eyes. "You cared more about me than people who knew me for years," she said quietly. "That means something." Jerry looked down at his shoes. No one had said words like that to him in a long time. A knock sounded. A nurse stepped in. "Mom, Your discharge papers are ready. Thank you, Natalia said. Please bring a wheelchair. I want to leave with someone helping me. Jerry stood up instantly. I can help you walk, Mom. She shook her head with a soft smile. Jerry, I know you want to help, but I don't want your back to break. Let them bring the wheelchair. He nodded, embarrassed. Sorry. But Natalia laughed gently. You don't need to say sorry, Jerry. You saved my life. You've earned the right to help me however you want. His chest warmed. A few minutes later, the nurse rolled the wheelchair in. Jerry helped Natalia sit, careful not to hurt her. As they moved through the hospital hallway, doctors, nurses, and even patients stared at them, some whispering. That's the homeless man. He saved Madame Natalia. Imagine mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. God used him. But Jerry didn't hear them. He kept pushing the wheelchair carefully, watching every bump in the floor so it wouldn't hurt her. Outside, Natalia's black SUV waited. Jerry opened the back door gently. Do you want me to lift you, Ma'am? Natalia lifted one eyebrow. Jerry, do I look like 10 kilograms? He froze. No, ma'am. I didn't mean… She burst out laughing. I'm joking. Yes, please help me. Jerry carefully lifted her from the wheelchair and helped her into the back seat. His hands were gentle, almost too gentle, as if she was glass and he feared she might break. Natalia smiled at him. You're careful. That says a lot about you. After he closed the door, Jerry walked around to the driver's seat, paused, and stared at the black SUV. Yesterday, he had run to this car in panic, trying to keep a dying woman alive. Today, he was driving her home. He placed his hands on the steering wheel. They trembled slightly, not from fear, but from the shock of how fast life could change. As they drove toward Banana Island, Natalia watched Jerry from the back seat. The sunlight caught on his face, revealing lines of pain, exhaustion, and something deeper: loss. He was not just a homeless man. There was a story behind those tired eyes. A very long story. Jerry, she said softly, you said something yesterday about me being the first person to talk to you kindly in a long time. He nodded slightly, his eyes on the road. Yes, Ma'am. Why? She asked softly. What happened to you? Jerry didn't answer immediately. His hands tightened on the wheel, then he inhaled deeply. Ma'am, before all this, I used to be a bank manager. Natalia's eyebrows shot up. A bank manager? Yes, Jerry said quietly. I wore suits every day. I had a house, a car. People respected me. Natalia leaned forward slightly. So what happened? Jerry swallowed. One day, a big amount of money went missing from the bank vault. Someone placed a fake signature inside my office drawer. The CCTV footage was edited to look like I was the last person in the vault. Natalia covered her mouth. Oh, no. I didn't even know what was happening, Jerry continued. They arrested me in front of all the staff. People screamed at me. Some said I stole their life savings. I kept saying I was innocent, but no one listened. Natalia's chest grew tight. Jerry, that is terrible. I spent 2 years in prison, he whispered. By the time they found the real thieves, I had already lost my job, my home, and the people I loved had left. Natalia felt tears burning behind her eyes. He continued, when I came out, I had nothing. No money, no place to go, no one to trust. I started living on the street. People treated me like dirt. Natalia couldn't hold back anymore. A tear rolled down her cheek. Jerry, I'm sorry. No one deserves that. He shook his head gently. It's fine, Ma'am. Life is life. I just stopped expecting anything good. But good found you yesterday, she said softly. Jerry blinked, surprised. Natalia smiled weakly. You saved my life, Jerry. You gave me another chance to see my daughter. That alone makes you a good man. Jerry looked away quickly. His eyes were wet. They drove in silence as the tall gates of Banana Island came into view. The security guards recognized the SUV and opened the gates without question. But when they saw Jerry driving, they frowned in confusion. Is Madam okay? One guard called. She's fine, Jerry replied. The guard stared at him but stepped aside. As they approached the mansion, a large white building with tall pillars and a fountain, Jerry's heart raced. He had never seen a house like this up close. He parked slowly and rushed out to open the back door. He helped Natalia out gently, trying not to cause pain. The front door of the mansion opened suddenly. A teenage girl with long black braids and big, curious eyes stepped out. "Mom!" Mirabelle. She ran toward them but stopped halfway when she saw Jerry's torn coat and rough appearance. Who is this man?" Natalia held Jerry's arm for support. "Mirabelle," she said softly, "this is the man who saved my life." Mirabelle's eyes widened. "What?" "He saved me when everyone else stepped back." Mirabelle's shocked gaze shifted from her mother to Jerry. She took a tiny step closer, then another. But before Jerry could explain anything, a second door inside the house opened. A tall man stepped out. Well-dressed, clean, confident, eyes cold. Jerry's breath stopped. He recognized that face. It was the man who framed him, and now he was standing inside Natalia's mansion, like he belonged there. Jerry froze. His breath caught in his throat. His hands went cold. His legs felt weak. Because standing in the middle of Natalia's beautiful mansion was the last man Jerry expected to ever see again. Dennis. Tall. Sharp-faced, cold eyes, perfect suit. The kind of smile that looked friendly on the surface but hid poison underneath. The same man who framed him. The same man who ruined his life. The same man whose lies put him in prison. Jerry's throat tightened painfully. What was he doing in Natalia's house? Natalia noticed the sudden tension. "Jerry? Are you all right?" But Jerry couldn't answer. His eyes stayed locked on Dennis. And Dennis slowly smiled. Not a warm smile. A smile of surprise. A smile of disbelief. A smile that said, "You? You're still alive." Dennis walked forward politely and bowed slightly to Natalia. "Madam, welcome home. I heard what happened. I rushed here as fast as I could." Natalia nodded faintly. "Thank you, Dennis, but Jerry brought me home." Dennis turned to Jerry, and his expression changed instantly, still polite, but with a hidden knife behind the eyes. "Oh," Dennis said slowly, studying Jerry from head to toe. "You brought her?" Jerry stayed silent. Mirabelle, noticing something strange, stepped closer. "Mom, who is this man again?" Natalia smiled. "Oh, Mirabelle, that's Dennis. He works in my finance team. He handles some of my company's accounts." Jerry felt the ground shift under his feet. Dennis was working for Natalia, the woman who saved his life, the only person who believed in him, the only person who treated him with kindness. Dennis cleared his throat. "So," he said, still looking at Jerry like dirt under his shoe. "Madam Natalia, what exactly happened? I was told you slipped." Natalia nodded. "I slipped and could not breathe. Everyone just stood there. But Jerry," she touched Jerry's shoulder gently, "Jerry pushed through the crowd and saved my life. If not for him, I would have died." Dennis's jaw tightened. Jerry saw the flicker in his eyes. Jealousy, fear, shock, anger. Natalia smiled again. "And Jerry will be working with us from now on." Mirabelle gasped softly. "He will?" "Yes," Natalia said. "He will be my personal driver. I'm promoting him to that position." Jerry's heart raced. He had expected kindness, but not this. Dennis's smile turned stiff. "A homeless man." "As your driver?" he asked quietly. Natalia's eyes narrowed. "Yes, a brave man who risked everything for a stranger." Dennis bowed his head slightly. "Of course, madam. Your decision." But Jerry could see the storm building behind his smile. Later that afternoon, Natalia rested in her bedroom upstairs while Mirabelle took Jerry on a small tour of the mansion. Mirabelle walked with her hands behind her back like a young woman full of pride. "This whole first floor is mostly living rooms and Daddy's old office," she said. "Mom hardly lets anyone into her room, but she's letting you close, so that says a lot." Jerry smiled shyly. "Your mom is kind, very kind." Mirabelle stopped walking and turned to him. Her eyes were soft. "You saved her," she said. "That means you saved me too. I don't know what I would have done if she—" Her voice broke. Jerry's chest tightened. "She's alive. She'll be fine." Mirabelle nodded and wiped a tear away. "You know," she said quietly, "I prayed last night. I asked God to let me see my mum again. I didn't know he was already sending someone to help her." Jerry swallowed. I just did what anyone should do. Mirabelle shook her head quickly. No, people walked away. People recorded. But you didn't think twice. Jerry stayed quiet. For the first time since he came out of prison, someone looked at him with admiration. Not fear, not disgust, not mockery. Admiration. Mirabelle continued walking. I know my mum. If she believes in you, then she sees something true. Jerry smiled weakly. Thank you. But just as they reached the end of the hallway, a voice cut through the air sharply. Jerry, come with me. It was Dennis. Mirabelle frowned. Why? What do you want? Dennis gave her a polite smile. Just a little talk with our new friend. Jerry felt his stomach twist. He followed Dennis into an empty study room. The door shut behind them with a soft click. Dennis dropped the polite act instantly. His face hardened, his eyes darkened. His voice dropped into a cold, sharp whisper. What are you doing here? Jerry's jaw clenched. I didn't know you worked for her. Dennis stepped closer. You were supposed to disappear. You were supposed to become nothing. Jerry felt his hands tighten into fists. You framed me, Jerry whispered. You destroyed my life. And I can destroy it again, Dennis hissed. Listen to me. He jabbed a finger at Jerry's chest. You are not staying here. You are not working for her. And you will not tell her anything about the past. Jerry lifted his chin. What if I do? Dennis's lips curled into a smile. Then I will tell her something worse. Jerry froze. What? Dennis leaned close to his ear and whispered, something that will make her throw you back on the street. Jerry's heart thudded. What are you talking about? He whispered. Dennis stepped back with a straight face. Oh, don't worry. When the time is right, you'll see. Jerry felt his stomach twist painfully. Dennis walked toward the door, but before leaving he looked back. And Jerry? Jerry looked at him quietly. Dennis's smile was icy. You may have saved her life, but I will make sure she regrets ever bringing you into this house. The door shut. Jerry stood alone in the quiet study, breathing hard, his heart pounding with new fear. Natalia trusted him. Mirabelle adored him. But Dennis was a snake, a dangerous one. And something told Jerry that Dennis wasn't only planning to ruin him again. He was planning something much worse. For the rest of that day, Jerry tried to stay calm, but Dennis's words stayed inside him like a knife. I will make sure she regrets ever bringing you into this house. Jerry didn't sleep that night. He paced slowly in the small guest room Natalia had offered him. Clean, warm, brighter than anything he had stayed in for years. He looked at the soft bed, the polished wardrobe, the quiet lamp. This wasn't his world, not yet, maybe not ever. Morning light finally slipped through the curtains and Jerry forced himself downstairs. When he reached the dining area, he saw Mirabelle already seated, eating cereal. She waved at him happily. Good morning, Jerry, he managed to smile. Good morning. Natalia walked in next. She looked healthier, still weak, but stronger than yesterday. She smiled at Jerry warmly. You stayed here last night? I told the maids to bring you anything you needed. Yes, ma'am, he replied. Thank you for everything. Natalia reached out and touched his arm gently. I meant what I said, Jerry. I want to help you rebuild your life. Those words melted something inside him. He opened his mouth to respond. But then Dennis walked in, with a folder in his hand, a folder with Jerry's name on it. Natalia looked up. Dennis, what is that? Dennis smiled a dangerous smile. Something important, ma'am. Jerry's stomach dropped. Dennis placed the folder on the table and slid it toward Natalia. I thought you should know who you brought into your home. Natalia frowned. Mirabelle stopped eating. Jerry froze. Dennis opened the folder and pictures spilled out. Pictures of Jerry in handcuffs. Pictures of Jerry in court. A newspaper headline, Bank Manager Arrested for 20 million naira theft. Natalia gasped. What? What is this? Mirabelle covered her mouth. Jerry? Dennis folded his hands proudly. Yes, Madam Natalia. Your new driver, your new hero, is an ex-convict. He stole from his own bank. He destroyed lives. He only saved you to trick his way into your house. Natalia stood up slowly, her eyes wide in shock. Jerry felt tears sting his eyes. "Mom, please listen." "Quiet," Dennis snapped. "You've fooled her enough." Then he turned to Natalia dramatically. "I warned you yesterday. A homeless man roaming the streets suddenly inside your mansion, driving your car, staying under your roof. It's madness." Natalia stared at Jerry, hurt, confused, shaking. "Is it true?" she whispered. Jerry closed his eyes. This was his worst nightmare. He nodded slowly. "Yes, I was arrested, but I didn't steal anything. I was framed." Dennis laughed. "Of course you were. What a convenient story." Jerry looked straight at Natalia. "Mom, please, let me explain. I was set up. They edited the CCTV. They placed a fake signature in my drawer. I didn't take any money." Dennis clapped mockingly. "Ah, such a beautiful story. Madam, do not let this liar ruin your home." Natalia turned to Dennis, her voice trembling. "Why are you doing this?" "Because I care about this family," Dennis replied smoothly, "and I care about you." Jerry watched him carefully. Dennis wasn't doing this to protect Natalia. He was doing it because he feared something, something big, something dangerous. But Natalia was too shocked to see it. "Jerry," she said softly, "you should have told me." Jerry's voice cracked. "I was afraid. I didn't want you to think I was a criminal." Dennis stepped forward. "Throw him out, Mom. Let the police handle the rest." Mirabelle stood up abruptly. "No." Everyone turned to her. Mirabelle walked to Jerry and stood beside him. "You saved my mom," she said with tears in her eyes. "You gave her a second chance. I don't care what anyone says. I trust you." Jerry's heart squeezed painfully. Natalia stared at her daughter, shocked. "Mirabelle." "Mom," she said firmly, "I don't know everything yet. But I know he's a good man." Dennis scoffed. "She's just a child." Natalia turned to Dennis sharply. "Don't speak to my daughter like that." Dennis blinked. Then Natalia looked at Jerry again. "Tell me everything," she said quietly. "The truth. All of it." Jerry took a shaky breath and nodded. "2 years ago," he began, "I discovered strange transactions in the bank. Someone was moving money and hiding it. I reported it to the senior accountant." Dennis stiffened. Jerry continued. "2 days later, the same money disappeared. And all the evidence pointed at me." Natalia frowned. "But how?" "Because," Jerry said, turning to look at Dennis, "the real thief had access to all the files and cameras. He knew how to hide his tracks." Dennis's face darkened. Jerry stepped forward. "Dennis was the accountant at the bank." Natalia gasped. "What?" Dennis's mask shattered. "No, he's lying." Jerry shook his head slowly. "I remember you, Dennis. Your voice, your shoes, the way you locked the vault the day before the theft, the way you were shaking the morning the robbery was discovered." Dennis swallowed hard. Jerry continued, his voice quiet but sharp. "You thought I would disappear forever, but God brought me back into the one house where you were hiding." Mirabelle whispered, "Mom, Dennis works in your finance department, just like he worked in Jerry's bank." Natalia's breathing quickened. "Dennis, is this true?" Dennis stepped back slightly. "Madam, it's all lies. He's trying to turn you against me." Jerry pointed at the folder on the table. "Open the last page." Natalia opened it with trembling fingers. A printed sheet. A recent audit report. Missing funds. Again. Natalia's eyes widened. 2 million naira missing. "From my company?" Mirabelle gasped. Jerry whispered, "The same pattern, the same person." Now Dennis panicked. He lunged forward to grab the paper, but Natalia stepped back sharply. "Guards!" Her voice thundered through the mansion. 2 security guards rushed in immediately. Natalia pointed at Dennis, her face cold and shaking. "Search him, right now." Dennis tried to run. The guards caught him. A small flash drive fell from his pocket. Jerry's heart sank. He knew what that drive was. A fake audit file. Fake signatures. Same strategy. Natalia stared at the flash drive, her hands trembling. She whispered, "Dennis, you tried to steal from me." Dennis tried to speak, but one guard covered his mouth. "Take him out," Natalia said quietly, "and call the police." The guards dragged him away. Dennis's muffled screaming echoed through the mansion. The moment the door shut, silence, heavy, deep silence. Natalia slowly turned toward Jerry. He stood still, afraid to breathe, afraid she would still ask him to leave, afraid of losing the only place that felt like home in years. Then Natalia walked toward him, step by step, her eyes filled with tears, not fear, but gratitude. She reached out and took his hands. "Jerry," she whispered, "you didn't just save my life. You saved my home, my company, and my daughter." Jerry swallowed hard, tears running down his cheeks. Mirabelle walked forward and wrapped her arms around both of them. Natalia leaned her head on Jerry's chest. "Stay," she whispered, "not as a driver, not as a stranger, but as someone I trust." Jerry closed his eyes, overwhelmed. For the first time in years, he felt seen, he felt safe, he felt wanted. But none of them knew. Something even bigger was coming. A future none of them expected. A future that would change everything, including their hearts. If you like this story, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel for more interesting stories.